Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me this week are some of my very best friends in the whole wide world. First up, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good.
And Matt, we have another friend here in the clubhouse joining us once again, our pal Rakush. Hey Rakush, how are you doing?
I'm very excited right now.
You really don't sound like it, but I'll take your word for it. Guys,
I always sound miserable, for the record, so if I say I'm excited, just please take me at my word.
Okay.
Man, I feel that, Rakush. For 1 hour every week, this is when I put my big smile on, but guys, I'm smiling for another reason this week. And Matt, as we shared before, we're going to be talking about a particular manga, a particular anime this week. And that's why Rakush is here, because in terms of people I know, I consider you an expert at our topic this week, Rakush. But before that, you guys, you've known me for a long time. And one of my toxic traits is I like to spend money to fill this void in my heart. And guys, I spent some money this week.
Sharon, what'd you buy?
So here in Canada, we have I'm not sure if it's kind of in Ontario only, but we do have a big book chain known as Chapters Indigo, but they had a sale this week, friends, where if you purchase, a certain amount, you would get 25% off. And guys, I added to my manga collection again this week, and I wanted to share my manga purchases just for you guys to kind of get your thoughts, to rate it, and think, yeah, I can see Jaren buying those mangas, so I'm going to share that with you right now. This is my anime.
Before you share that, I need to ask you if you're actually 100% certain you want to share some of the stuff that you bought.
It's Chapters. It's all normie anime stuff. Rakush, you know that.
Do I?
Okay, guys, this is my anime contribution for the week. So here we go. Part of my pile is my Dress Up Darling Volume 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My Dress Up Darling Volume 2. I have Spy Family Volume 1. I got Chainsaw Man Volume 1. And to round it off, We Never Learn 17.
Oh, nice.
We Never Learn 18. We Never Learn 20. And We Never Learn 21. Guys, rate my purchases this week.
Are those the last ones for Bokuben? Or is there still more after that?
Nope, those were all 4 endings of Bokuben, not Alba.
Nice.
Wait, did you get 19 as well? Because I don't know if I heard 19.
It's kind of weird, right, Matt? Because I swear there are 21 volumes, but it kind of skips 19. I wonder why.
Oh, and I didn't even catch that. That's a good goof.
I wonder why they skipped 19. Matt?
Oh, man.
They totally had 19 there, and I remember flipping through it and thinking, kind of to go into our most talked anime of 2019. Matt, when kind of flipping through all these this week, and I know this is the Chainsaw Man episode, but I wanted to touch on the last 5 endings of Bokuben again.
Did you say 5 endings?
Yes. Oh, Rakush, Bokuben is a harem anime, and every heroine got a alternate ending.
I mean, considering Jaren bought the manga, I figured it was something along those lines. Respectfully.
So these are going to be light, heavy spoilers for We Never Learn Matt. I kind of wish they had the volume where our protagonist goes back in time. Oh. But I was flipping through all the ones that they had in store, and unfortunately they didn't have that one, and I oddly liked it. But Matt, I was flipping through volume 19, Fumi's arc, and I have to admit, I still don't like that arc in terms of when it comes to the overall endings of Bokuben. I think I was actually thinking about this the other day, where to me, Fumi never felt like an actual contender in the whole Bokuben Bowl, which I think is really unfair of me to say, and is really disrespectful to the Fumi fans out there. But kind of going through her arc, or just remembering what I read previously and flipping through the pages in the bookstore, I don't know. I think in terms of, like, I'll admit it. You know me, Matt. I love Haruka, but I think hers is also a pretty bad ending for Bokuben. But in terms of Fumi, I think the whole concept of her having, so Rakush, just to give you mild spoilers, the whole So Fumi is one of the female leads in Bokuben, and then her whole thing is she has a pretty poor relationship with her father. Nothing like too bad. It's just that when her mother passed away, they both realized that Fumi is into astronomy. That's not really the path her father wanted her to take, and they've had conflicts ever since then. And there's this whole subplot within Fumi's ending where there is a lockbox from her mother that is, or no, not a lockbox. It's her laptop with a video, but the laptop has a lock screen where if you, Matt, it's 3 passwords if you don't get correct.
Yeah. Yes.
It will, I think it deletes all the content.
Itself. Yeah.
On the computer. And the whole, I guess Fumi's whole ending arc is coming to terms with the relationship with her father, getting closure with her mother. And I don't know, Matt, just going through it all over again. It's one of those things where when I think about all the other girls, I kind of would like to reread their stories, but when it comes to Fumi's in particular, I don't think there's anything that interesting when it comes to actually storytelling. I don't know, Matt. For me, it's just kind of a basic story that isn't actually interesting, and I honestly think Futaro doesn't actually do much, where in all the other endings, it kind of seems like it does build upon the relationship between the two, the female lead of that particular ending and Futaro as the male protagonist. But in terms of the Fumi arc, given their kind of all their different storylines throughout the actual Bokuben, you had a lot of different instances where Fumi does seem like this overprotective older sister in some regards, but I feel like that kind of chemistry between the two isn't necessarily explored in her ending, which, I don't know, kind of made me sad. So didn't pick it up, but picked up all the rest. And I know we talked about this, Matt, but just to end off, I'm really sad that based on the 5 ending, story lines, that Iruka, her volume doesn't actually have her on the cover solo, which I thought was really disrespectful to her as well. But yeah, those are my anime purchases this week. I
just kind of picture on your bookshelf like the gap where volume 19 should be is just like a hand-drawn magazine, and on the in the magazine itself is just like 2 pages where whoever this girl is opens up the laptop, puts in the wrong passwords, things get deleted, end of story, and it moves on to volume 20.
Yeah, I can kind of see it, but I know that was just a whole segment of me essentially shitting on Fumi. I like some of her storylines moving up, but I don't know. I think in terms of like actual character closure, it was more so a Fumi thing than a Fumi and Futaro relationship. But
we need to make the show go viral so that like all these fanboys just like come out and start attacking you for no reason.
Yeah, but guys, please don't hurt my feelings. But yeah, those were my purchases of the week. Kind of, even though I've mostly read through everything before, I don't know. I just like having stuff on my bookshelf, you guys.
I think those are nice purchases.
And yes, I also bought some Scrub Mommy sponges. Those are part of the Scrub Daddy sponge lines, where it's really bristly and one side's bristles, one side's a sponge, and they last a long time. So nice. That also rounded off my purchases.
They sell those at Chapters or Indigo?
Yes, they do. Oh. Yep. And I recommend them if you need sponges or, just.
I'm assuming you didn't do in-store pickup for any of these things.
Oh, no, this was definitely in-store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, salute to you.
Oh, there were Pokemon cards there, but those weren't for me. But yeah,
that's the part you're embarrassed by in this entire purchase.
They were legit not my Pokemon cards. But yeah, those were my purchases for the week. But I said one of the volumes I purchased was Chainsaw Man Volume 1. And guys, I hate to admit it, I know next to nothing about Chainsaw Man. The only reason I have Volume 1 is because I think in a lot of our different group or chats that were, or Discord channels that we're in, I know Rakush, you correct me if I'm wrong, and if this is unfair of me to say, but you go hard on the Chainsaw Man sometimes, and it's something I appreciate and makes me a bit curious, and hence why you're here this week for the Chainsaw Man episode of the Mistake Zone.
I'm really excited for this episode because of this reason. It's you're not exaggerating. Like, this is one of my, at least in modern, like, last couple of years, like between like 5 to 6 years, it's probably my like single favorite piece of like anime/manga content that's come out. So
nice.
Yeah.
Time to shit on it for an hour. Okay.
That's definitely so mad. Why is Kakagurui better than Chainsaw Man in every single way?
Oh man.
But Rakush, you are the professor here. Take the podium. Let's start it off simple because I know next to nothing. Rakush, what is Chainsaw Man, and what really got you hooked on it?
I'll start with the literal description of the show, going a little bit deeper into some of the more like emotional things. But the literal description is there's a kid named Denji, a teenager. He is down bad, and when I say down bad, like he's in debt to the like Yakuza/Mafia. He's literally like, you know, just hunting in this world.
I need to stop you there. I think we have two different definitions of down bad, just because when you said he was down bad, I thought you were going to end that sentence with a certain character's name, but okay. Sorry, that was my aside there.
Wait, what character's name?
Well, we can get into that later, but okay. We have our boy Denji. He's hit a rough spot.
Yeah.
And okay.
Not even just hit a rough spot. Like, his entire life has been rough is the backstory. Like, this kid is missing like a kidney. He's missing an eye because like he's had to like basically give up all these body parts to pay off debts that his family had incurred. He is an orphan at this point. He lives in this little shack. He's got this pet dog. And that's about it to start the anime, and then should go south, like really south. And he has to start facing demons and devils and stuff like that. He already does, but he's facing like stronger ones. And the people that were contracting him for the work turn on him, and then suddenly he's pretty much almost dead before the dog that he has starts talking. Which I wish happened in real life as well, because, you know, talking dogs would be really cool. But the dog turns out to be the Chainsaw Devil, and he gives up his soul to revive Denji, and so Denji essentially becomes Chainsaw Man. And from there, it's just, like a series of events that happen that look at this kid's growth as a person, this kid's development emotionally, physically, even mentally. And that's kind of like the more literal description of what the show is. It's probably as close to a hybrid shonen seinen as I can think of. There's a couple out nowadays, I'm sure, but like this one feels really like it straddles that line pretty well, but it straddles that line. Matt, is there anything you would add to that description? Because I know you've also watched or read it.
The only thing I would really add to it is like if you're trying to find a really bad but like, I don't know, semi-accurate close description of it, I think would be called adult bleach.
I could see that. I could kind of see a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the reason I just kind of like fell in love with it, I think, was because, so at first I was just kind of reading it because it was part of the Viz app, and I just had like free access to it. So I was like, yeah, let me just start reading this because it was recommending some series. But then like 5-6 chapters in, I was just kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, this is kind of crazy as well. Tatsuki Fujimoto. He has what I would describe as a very raw art style, but by design. So what I mean by that is that you're not going to look at his panels and his artwork and think it's the prettiest in the world. In fact, it's like, it's raw to make you feel some sort of discomfort with every page, with every panel. There's a certain very rotten energy to a lot of the things that happen in this manga and in his other works as well. But there's just something really stunning about it. And it's also combined with the fact that he has an affinity for a lot of action movies. And so a lot of his paneling, a lot of his like storytelling follows a lot of those inspirations. And action movies are something I love as well. So it was really one of the first times reading a manga. And admittedly, I don't like really read too much manga nowadays, or ever for that matter. Like even with stuff like One Piece or Naruto, I started with the anime and then went to the manga. This was the opposite. This was the first time it was the opposite. So a lot of the stuff that he was doing was just very I don't know if visceral is the right term to use, but like something about it just kind of stuck with me. And I think like through the raw art style, through all of that, the thing that always shone through was that his characters always felt very human.
Okay.
In a funny way, but they felt very human. Like in the series, Denji, kind of like, yeah, he's just shit out of luck, like for his entire childhood and his entire upbringing, but somehow he still keeps going. And it's like, why would you continue doing that? Why would you continue surviving, kind of thing? And it comes down to just kind of like base desires as well. And this kid is just living for the most simple of life's pleasures. Like in the first couple of episodes of the anime as well, like they portrayed that part really nicely, which is that like one of the first things he does when he moves into an apartment with one of his with his superior basically was like, I'm gonna make a toast with like everything on it, like different kinds of jams, different kinds of butters. And it's like this very simple thing, but it's like this is what this kid lives for, kind of thing. And like it's just portrayed in this really kind of like raw, bittersweet but beautiful way as well. And so that's like the human element of it. And then you combine that with the fact that every time Fujimoto draws action in the manga, it's just like high energy. It's so frenetic. Like it's controlled frenetic, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but like it feels like it's just drawing you from page to page in a way that's just like, I have never experienced that with manga before. I've experienced that with tons of movies, the movies that he is obviously used as inspiration, but never in the way that like reading this manga made me feel. So that's how I fell in love with it. And yeah, the anime came out a couple of weeks ago. It's 4 episodes in. 5th one should be out in a couple of days, I believe. Probably out as of the release of this episode, but yeah.
All right, cool. How about you, Matt? What's your kind of relationship with Chainsaw Man? And, you know, same question to you. What kind of made you stay with it or stick with it, if you do stick with it?
To be honest, after the first part finished, I've stopped reading it.
Okay.
I think I might just like pick it up again once there's a lot more chapters out.
Okay.
But like, to be honest, my initial interaction with Chainsaw Man is that Rakush kept telling me, hey, you should go read this manga because it's pretty good. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep reading it. And I just like kept going on with it to like talk to Rakush about it.
Okay. So Matt, you're saying Chainsaw Man for you is friendship.
It's peer pressure more than friendship.
It's peer pressure. It's peer pressure.
Hey, to some that is friendship. Some form of friendship.
Yeah. Part one, by the way, has around 99 to 100 chapters, approximately.
Right.
And then he took a break, and part 2 just started, I want to say, July or August of this year.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between 1 and 2? Is it like, does 1 end this like that arc in particular, or is there a continuation between the two?
I would probably consider the first part a saga versus arc.
Okay.
An arc, because there's like maybe 6 or 7 different big arcs in the first like 100 chapters. Okay. The second one, so far, without getting into crazy spoilers or anything like that, I mean, obviously you have Chainsaw Man, but 99% of the story is very separate from what happened in the first part. But that could obviously change in the coming weeks of the manga as well.
Okay, cool. But
if I may add one more thing, there is a lot more that I want to share and say about the series, but I feel like because of where the anime is, I don't want to share all of my feelings just yet, because a lot of those feelings are kind of spoilery as well, and it kind of like puts people in a situation where they might be bracing for one feeling or the other, and I just kind of don't want to do that just yet. But I will say, like, that's just like the intro of how this anime makes me, or this manga makes me feel, but there is plenty more that I could share if this were a spoiler heavy episode, which I don't think it should be, but yeah.
Well, maybe this can be something we do in the future and would actually give me, you know, incentive to further read it. Maybe we can do a part 1 full-on discussion down the line sometimes, maybe this season ends, or just when we get around to it. But I think having a outlet to actually let you explore those thoughts would be really something interesting to explore. But now that we have kind of, your basis of you guys watched you guys read through at least the first part of Chainsaw Man. We know your relationship with the manga itself. When the anime was announced, what were your initial thoughts? Did you have any hopes, concerns, way before you watched the first episode? What was on your mind when you saw that, hey, they're bringing this to a, I don't know, 12, 24, I don't actually know how long the season is, but when it was announced, what were your feelings?
It's an interesting one, because when it was announced that Mappa was going to be, am I pronouncing that right? Mappa?
Yeah,
Mappa?
I think that's right.
When it was announced that Mappa was going to be doing the series, I was extremely excited, because when it got announced, I think Jujutsu Kaisen was just ending the first season at that point, and that was like leaps and bounds the best like animated series out there at that point. Story wise, obviously, like, it's very subjective, but if you're just looking at the quality of the animation, like, I don't think anything even got close to it. Maybe Demon Slayer, but I was really excited, and I think as kind of like it got announced a long time ago, and as kind of like, just the work continued on it, and like, some of the things came out, like the first trailer, like, the promotional pieces, stuff like that, I think my excitement was quite high on it. But I would also say that like I had extremely high expectations as well, because again, like I was explaining, like there's just something very special about this manga and how I feel reading it, and how kind of just looking at the art style and like the way Fujimoto draws characters, it's rough, it's raw, but also there's just like, a lot of emotion filled into those panels, even in the emptiness, like, even in the void, there's just a lot of things to feel with that book. Personally, I don't expect everybody to have the same experience with it. So I had very high expectations as well. So I think like the whole kind of like pre-release cycle and the hype cycle and stuff I think I was excited for it. I think I was still like looking forward to it a lot. I would definitely say like the first 2 episodes, I was a little bit more down on them. But I think 3 and 4 have been me just kind of like, I don't know, like I've just kind of liked 3 and 4 a little bit more. Okay. But yeah.
Okay, we can get into those specifics when we just go through the different episode discussions. But Matt, since we've done these anime episodes for a good chunk, more or less. But for you, Matt, when you think about the anime adaptation in general, how do you think it kind of holds up? Do you think it does the manga justice, or are there some things that may or may not sit right with you?
I think it does the manga justice. Kind of just going back to like what Rakush said, I also kind of like fell into the hype of the Chainsaw Man, I guess like promotion time,
right?
Where like those trailers were like killing it,
yeah.
And I thought it was gonna be so good. And also, just like Rakush, I think episodes 1 and 2 kind of let me down on that, but 3 and 4 also definitely brought me back, because I feel like I don't know, after watching 1 and 2, 3 and 4 kind of exceeded the expectation I put into what I expected the rest of the series to be. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Okay,
it does. I kind of see.
But like, yeah, I think it's doing like more than enough like justice for what this series like should be.
Okay. Well, I guess we should stop talking around it and actually get to these episode discussions now that I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. But let's start it off with episode 1. And if you just want to jump right into it, episode 2 as well. So starting with you, Rakush, what were your thoughts when you watched the first episode? And now that we know you were kind of let down, what were the things that really stood out to you, for better or for worse?
I think, and it's a great question. It's what I've been trying to get a clear answer to myself for a long time. Maybe talking through it with you guys will get me to it. But I think like there are 2 big things that really stand out for me throughout so far the early episodes. Is it's definitely got a different style to it than the manga does. The designs are fantastic and the character designs are very accurate, but I think the world itself feels empty in a way that just kind of like draws your attention to it. In the manga, what the emptiness was still full of, I would say, like certain emotions that you can get that are unique to reading manga as well. Like, or like Fujimoto did an excellent job drawing backgrounds and like kind of showing like, how this weak, strong-willed kid is surviving in this like crazy world, in this crazy town kind of thing, in this crazy society even. I just felt like it felt a little bit empty in the first couple of episodes. Now, do I think the animation added to that? I don't know. But I will say that I haven't been the biggest fan of how certain shots have been framed so far, compared to how they were framed in the manga, to bring certain focus to certain scenes and stuff like that as well.
Is there any specific example that comes to mind that you can kind of describe? Or
yeah, I would say the first episode in general, because something I've been doing is rereading the manga to read the episode or the chapters that are covered per episode. With the first episode, I found that the framing on the warehouse scene where he's essentially fighting those like zombies and stuff, it goes very wide on a bunch of shots. It goes into like this 3D space on a couple of other shots. Just a couple of different choices made by the team to go like, you know, with certain angles felt off, because when reading it in the manga, it felt very claustrophobic. It felt very stifling in a way that was supposed to show a life getting snuffed out as well. And it also has a lot to do with the way Fujimoto or his team inks the pages as well. So like those shots were very dark. They were very just kind of like gritty and grim as well. And it just felt too clean and empty in the first episode. And I think those two words, clean and empty, come up in a couple of episodes so far as well, like 1, 2, and even 3 to some extent. And it just, yeah, if it were just empty and it was matching some of the art style of the manga itself, I would have been a little bit more positive on that stuff. But it just felt really off to me in the first couple of episodes. So I would say like that's definitely one of them. I think the other one is in episode 2 or episode 3 where they introduce Power, one of my favorite characters, to the show. In the manga, it's just like framed so well that like, you know, it's just her appearance is very abrupt. Her appearance is almost always very abrupt in the show because of just her character and how she carries herself and stuff as well. But it kind of holds on the abruptness to kind of like the timing of it was so much better in the manga versus in the anime. It feels like it hits the moment and it just kind of moves on as well. So it's a lot of those things where like, I don't know if it's necessarily fair to put that on the animation team. It's just the way I paced it in my head, and the way I paced it, just the way I imagined it being, is a little bit different than like what is actually on screen, I guess.
Okay. So Matt, you also said that you had a bit of disappointment for episodes 1 and 2. In terms of coming into the anime, do you think that your manga experience really influenced that? And I guess this is a question to both of you. If someone were to go in without the manga context, would they kind of notice those things as well?
I think for the most part, I feel like most people wouldn't really notice that sort of like thing that Rakush was talking about. I feel like the anime itself, because like Rakush like obviously like really really loves this anime, but like for me, or not just anime but like series, but for me it's a lot more of a like, oh, I just want to like go into Chainsaw Man to see what's going on with Chainsaw Man. I didn't have a very specific memory of what like every single plot point within Chainsaw Man. So for me, it was mostly just oh yeah, this fits with what I remember happening in the Chainsaw Man manga. Like I don't really have too much memory of early Chainsaw Man. I guess like timing and framing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it for me is more so remembering, I guess, like action scenes and like I don't know, certain like I guess like key plot moments or characters and stuff happening to them. But like I think going into the anime blind, you would really really like the anime. I think up until that zombie scene at the end, I think Chainsaw Man was like killing it.
Yes.
Like I thought the backgrounds were very very like nicely drawn, like just from an art perspective. Maybe like not so much of a like the thing Rakush was talking about, like the kind of like framing and the emptiness. Like I wasn't really considering that. I was just kind of looking at him going like, oh yeah, yo, this is basically exactly what I expected going in. And then when they got to the ending scene, the ending fight with the zombies, that's when it plummeted for me, because
oh no,
that CG did not hit me in a good way.
Yeah,
I thought it was all very like poorly done, especially when it's the climax of your episode, your first episode too, which really really like killed me and started my Chainsaw Man de-hyping.
I fully agree with what Matt is saying with regards to if you're going in blind without reading the manga, you're not going to notice the things I'm mentioning here. And I agree with him on the quality of the CG as well. I think I'm going to call it an interesting choice just because it's only 4 episodes in, but they have decided that the Chainsaw Man character itself is going to be in CG and everything else is going to be hand-drawn. I don't think it was like that in the first episode, but they definitely have done that in episode 3 and 4. And it's definitely a choice. I think the CG adds to one of my big complaints as well, which is it feels a little clean versus the manga itself.
Okay.
But I would agree with him as well that, like, unless you are me, who's being extremely picky about how I envision these things, you probably wouldn't catch some of the things that I'm mentioning there.
Okay, so maybe this is more so a question to you, Rakush. You know me, I said in the beginning, I have volume 1 sitting beside me, and of course you guys are selling me on to checking out the anime as well. Is it a disservice, knowing me for so long, is it a disservice to kind of read the manga first, or should I just jump into the anime?
Ooh. Matt, you want to take that first?
I don't think you'd be doing yourself a disservice. I'll be honest, like, if I'm ever able to experience an anime going into and then like start reading the manga, I feel like it is maybe a little bit better of an experience for me, just because I don't know about you guys, but like if I read a manga without reading an anime, when you guys read a manga, do you hear voices in your head? I don't know if like that's a thing.
Oh, that's actually a good question.
Yes,
Yes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question, because when I kind of think back to all the manga that I finished recently, same with I'll think about Promised Neverland, I'll think about Demon Slayer. I think I'll always, since I was first experienced those series through the television show, I think, oh, okay, I do replay the voices, or, you know, for the most part in my head as I read on. But something like Nagatoro, Matt, I think that was something or even Dress Up Darling, those were things we both read prior to the animation coming out. And it's kind of weird where we had this conversation, especially with Dress Up Darling, where I thought, oh, these aren't really the voices that I thought. So it's kind of a interesting question to ask, because I do put my own spin of how I think a character will sound when I first read, and then if I hear the anime, or when I watch the animation, if it doesn't really connect to what's in my head, it kind of almost, as shitty as it sounds, really takes me out of it a bit. But if it's the flip side where I have the anime first and then read the rest of the manga, it kind of influences how I guess produce it in my head. So yeah, I guess it is kind of, I guess I should ask then, how is the voice acting when it does come to the anime?
I mean, personally, I think all the voices are like pretty good. They're basically like very close to what I was imagining for all the characters. I don't know if you felt differently, Rakush.
I pretty much agree with you. I think it took me an episode to get used to Denji's voice, but even that I think is fairly accurate.
Okay. And before we move on, I have to ask, you guys have been poo-pooing, you know, the ending climax of episode 1, but Matt and Rakush, you guys know me, I love me some good fight choreography in my anime. How does Chainsaw Man, you know, compare in terms of, you know, what I have liked in the past?
I think that first episode had like some good moments of fight choreography, but I think overall the fight to me felt bad.
Okay.
I don't know if you felt
I felt like they kind of lost a lot of the energy they lost the energy in translation for this fight. And I was pretty disappointed with that one too. But I will say this as a positive thing, is episode 3 and 4 had a really, really good fight sequence.
Okay.
A couple actually. And I would say like it feels like they figured something out in the first couple of episodes. But I've definitely enjoyed 3 and 4. And I do think part of it is also because I figured out at the end of the second episode that I kind of just gotta enjoy this show as something that is different than the manga. And what I mean by that is stylistically, it's a very different thing. So like, I'm not going to find the same emotions in the same things as I did in the manga. It's going to come out in different ways. And I think that once I understood that a little bit, I was a little bit more lenient with it, I guess. But I think it does action really well in episodes 3 and 4.
Okay.
And I would imagine that's what they're going to continue doing as well. Because I'm pretty sure they're doing like 12 episodes for the first half of the season and then 12 for the second half.
Oh, is it only 12 episodes?
Yeah, so it's 12 episodes in total for the first season.
Okay.
I would imagine that they're doing it as like 12 episodes for season 1, and then they'll come back and do like 12 episodes after a break as well, because a lot of shows are doing it that way. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if it's around or like a shonen type anime. But okay, we have your thoughts on episode 1. This brings us to episode 2. And I know you guys said that episode 2 you still have mixed feelings on, but how is the second episode of the series? And even if there are some misses, are there any hits here?
If I were to explain episode 2, I think it was very much kind of, they were expecting it to be a ramp down from episode 1, but
right.
I just never felt like episode 1 hit the highs that you needed to ramp down from, myself at least. That's not to say that I like hated episode 1. It was just different than what I was expecting, and so I am a little bit more critical of it in a way that's kind of like, it's different. That's it.
Okay.
The CG is definitely a choice as well, I would say. But yeah, I would say with episode 2, it shines in some parts where it's trying to show you the humanity, which is one of the big things that I love about the series, is just like, even though like, yeah, it's like, oh, these are fiends, as they call, like, you know, the humans that are possessed by demons or devils, but like, it's a very human series. It's a very honest series in that sense, where like you almost always will look at a character and you can understand what their internal like struggles are, their internal thoughts are, everything like that as well. And so I think episode 2 had a bit of that as well, which it kind of did nicely, but it still struggled from some of the complaints that I had with episode 1 as well, which is like, it's just in my mind, there's certain scenes from the manga that needed a little bit of a pause, or needed just a different framing, or like they needed to sit for like just 1 or 2 seconds to let it breathe as well. And it just wasn't a decision that they made, for better or for worse. And it's not to say that they did that because there was a lack of runtime either, because one of the things Matt said was a positive, which it absolutely is just how beautiful the world is as far as how they've designed it and drawn it and stuff as well. But it does have moments in the first 4 episodes where sometimes they'll linger on certain scenes for like a very weirdly long stretch of time, where it feels like it's one of those like videos of like, you know, just really high quality anime designs you'd see on like YouTube, or like, you know, just like all aesthetics and all vibes, no substance kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it just kind of like, I say that to say like they linger on those shots, but when I watched that back, I'm not sure what it's actually adding to the overall flow of the episode sometimes. And so there's a lot of those moments so far in the first 4 episodes as well, where it just kind of feels like they're more focused on showing the beauty of the stuff that they've created versus like the more emotional aspects of it as well. But episode 2 has its moments, but it still was one of those where I was like, oh, this is a little bit weird.
All right. Speaking about moments though, Matt, was there anything in particular about episode 2 that stuck out to you?
Not too much for me. Like, I think episode 2 was mostly just an info dumping episode. Like, it introduced it introduced your main characters. It introduced Aki, introduced Makima, introduced Power, and I think all the concepts that are going on in the world. I think like how like devils just like, you know, live among like, not really live among people, but they're like known quantities. How what's it called, Rakush? What's the organization? Like public safety organization, I think it
Something
is.
like
That's
that,
what they're
yeah.
called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the public safety organization like handles the devils, and it kind of shows what the public safety organization kind of does when in the background. And for me, like this was really the episode that sold me on the initial trailer animation style.
Okay.
Where I fully realized that the trailer was done as like the animation pieces in the trailer were done specifically for the trailer instead of being like pulled out of the episodes.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping.
Right.
Like in particular, just the Power jumping off the building scene.
Yeah.
I think is the one that like really, where it really stands out.
There are some online theories going around, which shocker theories online, but like a lot of the belief is that some of these things could also get fixed or adjusted for Blu-ray releases as well. I'm kind of hopeful that happens because I agree with you. Like, there's a lot of sequences where it feels like it feels like they ran out of time. I don't think it was necessarily a lack of funding or anything like that. It just feels like they ran out of time.
I think it was mostly really, to me, just that, like, it was just them hyping the show. Like, I fully understand them putting more effort into the quality of a trailer than they would, like, overall into the series. And I feel like that's a standard thing that happens, because I know Mappa's, like, really done this before when they were promoting Attack on Titan.
Okay.
One thing I'm curious about, I wanted to ask you about, Matt, is has anything with regards to the narrative put you off on the series so far, or is any of that like just secondary to your bigger concerns about the animation?
To be honest, like I said earlier, I don't specifically remember too many specific plot points for Chainsaw Man. So the way that they're presenting the narrative right now, to me, seems like fine. Like, I'm almost experiencing the story sort of new, and I feel like these plot points and the way that they're just presenting the story is like totally fine to me.
That's fair.
Okay.
I'm guessing you're running into something that you're not liking.
I mean, it's just the stuff I've been mentioning for the most part, which is just how certain conversational or like, you know, certain scenes where it's conversations, or certain scenes where there's just like a really impactful line or stuff like that, where they don't linger on that stuff. It's that kind of stuff that just has really bugged me. One thing, it's kind of spoilery, but not a big one. The way they handle the beginning of episode 2 versus the way they handled it in the manga is actually quite drastically different as well, by the way. So that's also worth there are enough differences between the two that I think like you're getting different experiences by watching the anime versus reading the manga. So just worth mentioning that as well.
Is this something you can kind of explore? I know you're kind of hesitant without any spoilers, but if it's something really drastic, I'm actually curious how different it is. Is it in terms of, say, tone or how it's shot? But what really flagged this for you?
Quick spoilers, I guess, for the first half of episode 2 for the next little bit. That episode starts with Denji and Makima being in the car. They're making a quick stop on the highway, and they're eating and stuff like that. And they do this very fan servicey scene where Makima is just like feeding him noodles and stuff, and he faints. They do stop at a highway, like rest stop, pit stop in the manga as well, but in fact, there's a whole like chapter or 2 where Denji has to go into the woods to rescue somebody. They don't do that at all in the anime. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's just a character moment that is kind of missing, especially for a character that you've only known for like grand total of like 30 to 40 minutes so far.
Right.
And I think ultimately, again, this is just the disclaimer that is pretty obvious by now for anybody listening to this episode. My complaints are very, very picky and like specific, and just like probably unfair to the team making the anime itself. Because to me, reading the book, like rereading it as well as all the stuff is happening, it was a moment where it's the first time in the first like 4 or 5 chapters that you get a moment where Denji thinks independently, as opposed to thinking out of circumstances or thinking out of like base desires or anything like that. He just has emotions in that 1 or 2 chapters that like are his own and nobody else's, but it's not something that is dire. I think like they handled it decently enough in the rest of the episode and in episodes 3 and 4 that you still kind of get a good sense of who the character is. It's just one of those moments to say like it's not a 1-to-1 adaptation.
Right. Yeah. With you describing it, I was going to ask, say in the manga you have that, you know, essentially more of a context to this character, and if that's missing from the anime adaptation, do we eventually get to that point within episodes 2, 3, and 4, or is, as you know, you said it was kind of a light, but do you think that by omitting that scene we eventually get there, or is it something that is kind of missing for the audience of the anime?
I think we roughly got there by the end of episode 4, I would say.
Okay.
For all my complaints, I do kind of respect the fact that they're not going 1-to-1 manga to anime as well, because if you're not going to be able to match it stylistically, then it also makes sense that narratively you're going to look at things that work a little differently but better on TV versus on paper, right? So I don't think we get back to this point at any or like in a future episode or anything like that, because of just how much this character I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like this character grows. It's the whole story is about growth and understanding and like independence and like, you know, just like living for your dreams and not somebody else's, right? So like I don't think you'll be getting to like, if you get to this like 1 or 2 chapters later on in the anime, I feel like you're taking a step back as a character. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, we've been talking around it. Let's get to it. Episode 3. Apparently, this is when it picks up. Matt, how does episode 3 stack up, and what really stood out to you that kind of made you go, okay, maybe I'll jump back on this train?
Okay, so I think like the big obvious thing is that the action scene in episode 3 is leaps and bounds better than the action scene that was in episode 1. But like even before that, I think 1 and 2 for me just didn't have enough of the, I don't know, character interactions I was looking for. But the start of episode 3 mostly focuses on Denji and Power kind of just like talking to each other and kind of going into their backstories, and just the interactions that they decided to give these characters in this episode, I thought like really hit like pretty well to me. And I thought it was a fun style of interaction that I was kind of, that's more so what I remember for character interactions when I was thinking about the manga. I kind of, I guess, forgot how bleak it was at the very, very start of Chainsaw Man. But like having the Denji and Power interactions and then having this, for me, like a redemption in the animation for the episode 3 fight, which was really, really well done, I think. Really think pulled me back into this anime.
Have you caught up on 4 as well, by the way?
Yeah, I watched 4 as well.
What did you think about the 4th episode animation?
I mean, so the fight scene between like 3 and 4 is basically just one big fight scene. And I thought the fight itself in episode 4, I don't think stood out as anything too different for me. I thought it was like a very like fun fight scene to watch. It was nice to see Denji fight in a way that wasn't specifically just the Chainsaw Man, but I think the latter half of episode 4 was just Mappa flexing on like their animation style. I don't know if you felt that same way.
It got really good at the second half of episode 4, just as far as like the flow of the fight and just like the combination of the music and everything. I actually thought like episode 4 was the first of all these episodes where I was kind of like, yeah, this feels like Mappa's working on it versus like another studio.
Oh, you're talking about the latter half of the episode 4. I was talking about the latter half of episode 4 as a whole, when they are just chilling in the house.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant to say like entire episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So like there's the fight in episode 4, and then there's them chilling and Power showing up at the doorstep and all that stuff as well. But like, yes, absolutely. Like there is just them they also, to be fair, have been flexing a lot through the first 3 episodes with their beauty shots of the sceneries and stuff as well. But it felt like episode 4 was a combination.
Yeah, I think the kind of like mid scene of Denji and Aki hanging out at the house before Power shows up was Mappa just going hard on going like, hey, look at this. Like you can't really like, at least I specifically couldn't really tell, hey, is this mocap or is this like rotoscoped? And then like they drew over it. Like, look at this. Look at us draw this coffee. Look at the bubbles that we decided to put in like the water as it's like pouring through these coffee grains. Like
it's 100% going to be one of those like clips that you're going to see on whatever social media exists in the next couple of years. Because everyone's like, look at this amazing art style and like, you know, anime food and shit.
When an anime decides to draw fingernails, you know that they're going hard. I think that's like, for me, one of the big distinctions on when they're just like trying to flex or not.
Yeah.
But like, going back to the fight real quick, because I just remembered this bit. I'm really disappointed that I haven't been able to find a clip edit of this. But there was a part where Denji is fighting the Leech Devil and he's kind of just like sliding along it.
Yes.
I don't know if you got the same vibe, Rakush, but did that remind you of the Disney Tarzan movie whenever Tarzan is going around the jungle?
I mean, now that you mention it, I kind of see it, but that is a very interesting comparison that I never thought you'd be making.
I am so pissed that they're like, because I think I watched episode 4 kind of late. Like I watched it like earlier today, which is Sunday. And I think this episode's been out for a few days already. And the fact that there isn't a edit of that scene with Denji like sliding down all these tentacles and Phil Collins isn't playing in the background, I'm pissed.
Matt, I don't mean to be rude with this comment, but realistically speaking, how much older are we?
Oh yeah, we're old.
That general audiences wouldn't pick up on that.
No. We old. But like, I don't know. Was it?
I mean, to be fair, in his defense, the entire opening of Chainsaw Man is a love letter to like early 90s, like Tarantino stuff and early 90s and mid to late 90s anime. So it's not a stretch to say like there's a very specific target audience for this series as well. Tarzan's from mid to late 90s as well.
So yeah, Tarzan's in a 1999 movie. Yeah.
So what you're telling me, Rakush, is that Matt has to be the one to put that edit together.
I'm gonna get that edit together.
Yes.
Oh man, but
yes.
Okay, Rakush. I know I hear you. I hear the giddiness in your voice. Let's just get into it. 3 and 4. What are your like immediate thoughts when I say what do you think about these episodes?
It might have something to do with the fact that we see Power more in the series, and she's one of my favorite characters in the entire manga. And her interaction with Denji is one of my favorite interactions in a lot of different mangas as well, just as far as like characters talking to each other and just like how their relationship develops as well. Not in your typical anime sense either, or manga sense, but like it's a really interesting dynamic that the two of them have. And when episode 3 happened, like the scene that Matt was talking about, just with how they were interacting with each other and how like the fights happen and how everything with the Bat Devil happens and the animation for that entire sequence as well, it's pretty well done. Even and I again will say like it's different in the manga just because of the way that Fujimoto inks his pages, the way he frames or like, you know, does the panels and stuff like that, and how he puts focus on things. But all that being said, I do think the anime did it justice, at least for like these last couple of episodes, and so I'm very optimistic that they've hopefully figured something out for like the next couple of episodes as well, or the next couple of arcs.
Okay,
because there's some real insane arcs coming up, because I will say this much as well. So far there is absolutely no fair way for the anime team to quite explain to the audience how crazy shit is about to get in this series, because in the manga it gets wild after like 15 chapters, like action wise, story wise, character wise, like it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And if they figured something out now where like the stakes of the animation and the story are still relatively low, then it means that there's better things coming up as well, because they're only gonna get more comfortable with like the animation and the pacing and stuff as well. Okay. So yeah, I think that's what episode 3 and 4 did for me, is kind of took it from like a fairly because I mean, I was talking to Matt about the first 2 episodes, but I actually hadn't talked to him about 3 and 4 because he hadn't watched them yet. I was pretty mixed on 1 and 2 for the reasons that I suggested, but I think 3 and 4 really fixed a lot of those things for me as well. So yeah, I'm optimistic still. Like, you know, it's been a bit down and up. I hope it's just up from here on, but it's not going to change the fact that I love the manga, and it's not going to change the fact that I love all of Fujimoto's work since he started Chainsaw Man as well, because I know I mentioned I wanted to like quickly shout out like the one shots that he did between parts 1 and 2 as well when we were planning this episode. But I would definitely recommend, if any of the things that I mentioned about his artwork evoking like a raw emotional reaction within people, if any of that sounds appealing to people, I would absolutely recommend going and reading his one shots. Goodbye Eri, which is the second one shot that he released, is one of the best things I've ever read. Like any medium, any form of literature, it's one of the best things I've ever read, and I've read that like 7-8 times this year alone. It came out this year, but like I've read it like 7-8 times, and it's like it's wild. The way it's just like drawn, and the way he gets a little bit meta with how like his own art style works and stuff as well. It's just, it does things that are so unique to the form, or to the sorry, what's the word I'm looking for?
Medium?
Yeah, unique to the medium. Thank you. It's so unique to the medium, and it's so unique to his art style, but he does it so wonderfully that you read that, and at the end of it, you're just like, this guy knows exactly what he's good at. even though every piece of narrative that I've read of his suggests that he's got some sort of crazy imposter syndrome. But he is honestly like one of the most aware, talented artists out there right now. Even if like his quality doesn't stand up to say like what not much stands up to Berserk, but like it won't stand up to like a Berserk. It won't stand up to Murata's work on One Punch Man or anything like that. But it stands out for its own unique reasons, and I think that's all you could ask for from any creator as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a bit of a rant. Sorry.
No, so for these one shots that we're talking about, are these in relations to Chainsaw Man, or are these something that you can just pick up and, hey, you should just read this?
Oh, story-wise, you can just pick them up and read them. They have no relation to Chainsaw Man. It does have a relation to his own thoughts and feelings, possibly, on Chainsaw Man Part 1 and 2. There's 3 one-shots. The first one was called Look Back, which I also have a physical copy of as well, because that's how much of a fan I am of this guy now, that I'm buying physical copies of books, which I rarely do. But the first one was called Look Back, and that's about this one student that draws manga kind of badly, or at least she thinks she's drawing it badly, and then she compares herself to this other person, fellow high school student who's a bit of a shut-in, has agoraphobia. She's like just this immensely talented person, and it's this one shot about their relationship and how they kind of like perceive each other's work as well. And to me, that kind of stands as Fujimoto commenting on how he compares himself to some of the other artists out there as well. Before I move on, Matt, anything you want to add to Look Back?
I don't think I read Look Back, to be honest.
It's a quick read too, because like a lot of these one shots that he makes are more heavy on like focusing on the art and the paneling and the repetition of his art as well, versus like dialogue heavy stuff. So it takes like, honestly, it will take you like 5 minutes to read it, because it's probably like right up in your wheelhouse that there's not a lot of dialogue, there's not a lot of shit to follow. So yeah, so it's really cool in that sense. I already spoke about Goodbye Eri. Goodbye Eri is about this kid who gets a home video recording camera, and so he starts recording things in his own life and stuff as well. And it just, man, I don't want to say anything more. I just really feel like that's one you just kind of got to go in and experience by itself. Because the more I say, the wilder, like the more I say, the less wild it's going to be. And I feel like just kind of experiencing it for the first time is part of the joy with Goodbye Eri. So
I think Goodbye Eri is probably like my favorite Fujimoto piece, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love Chainsaw Man, but I think Goodbye Eri is like, holy shit, like it's that good. And like, for what it's worth, like, Matt, you and I have known each other for like fucking 20 years now at this point, probably. You have positive reactions to a lot of things, but I don't think, like, as far as manga is concerned, you and I have ever had such a similar, like, whoa kind of reaction to reading something, you know? So, like, if my word doesn't count for much, I would at least say, like, listen to, like, Matt's enthusiasm for that, because yeah, it's
a good one shot. It's a really good one shot.
Yeah. And the last one that he created was like right before part 2 started. It's called third one is called Just Listen to the Song, and that one, it's an interesting perspective when you just kind of read it with the knowledge that like he was about to start part 2 of Chainsaw Man as well, because he goes into that one and the whole message is kind of like just about enjoying the medium and stuff like that. Again, it's very trippy, this one, but just going into blind is probably for the better. I don't think it's necessarily as jaw-dropping or like, you know, thought-provoking as any of the other ones are concerned, but I still think it got across the message that he wanted to share with people prior to part 2, which is just kind of like, you know, enjoy the ride. Like, don't overanalyze everything, don't stress out over like, you know, a lot of stuff the way like anime and manga fandom tend to make people stressed out.
Okay.
And I kind of found that a little beautiful, you know, that like he was almost speaking directly to the fans in that sense, and that was really nice as well. So yeah, I just wanted to like mention that like it's there's a lot of uniqueness to this guy, and I think like that's also why the first 2 episodes felt so disappointing to me, as far as just like not capturing this guy's like uniqueness or his art uniquely as well. But I also understand it's not always possible to capture that either. So
okay,
good on the anime team for at least trying something different with it.
Alrighty, cool. Well, you sold me on those one shots, and wrapping up, I think I have two more questions to ask you guys. The first one being, I know you were really excited about the future of Chainsaw Man, at least the anime adaptation, Rakush. And I guess to you and Matt, without really going into spoilers, are there any particular arcs or story beats that you're excited to see adapted in the anime? And do you think they'll be able to hit those within the next within this season, I mean?
I am almost certain they're gonna hit one of them this season in these 12 episodes because it's coming up soon.
Actually, Rakush, just like to quickly like pivot on that real quick, or add to that real quick. How far do you think they're going to get into the story in 12 episodes?
Do we want to get into spoilery stuff?
I mean,
or just mentioning arc names?
Just like arcs. Yeah, arc names.
It's like arcs or like chapters, like what the chapter equivalent would be.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I sense like they're probably going to get through the Katana Man arc by the end of this first season.
Oh, okay. I was expecting them to get to the end of the bomb arc.
That's a lot. That's like half the first part. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My sense there is, I think Bomb is going to be the first half of the second season or the second half of first season. Like it'll be basically like 13 episodes 13 to like 20 approximately, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It might even go all the way up until the end of season 1 as well because
I was expecting season 2 to finish part 1.
I think that's too quick, but I could see it.
Because I feel like it doesn't have a good stopping point if you don't get all of part 1 into season 2. Or maybe, I guess I just haven't read like part 2 either, but like, I just felt like part 1 had such a good closing point that it would be weird to not have that as the closing point for season 2.
The sense I get is that season 1, or if we consider season 1 to be 24 episodes, where it's like, 12 episodes each, it's going to end with the Bomb Devil arc. And
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there is a pretty natural cliffhanger to leave season 1 on.
Yeah.
Without getting into it too much. And I think like the second season will finish part 1 of the manga.
Okay, yeah, okay. That makes more sense. Yeah.
I think they'd have to slow down the pace on some stuff, but I think it's definitely doable.
All right, cool. Well, guys, you have made me really interested in Chainsaw Man, and I think this brings me to my final question, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this because you guys know me as well. As I said, my only real knowledge of Chainsaw Man is that Rakush likes it a lot. Matt has a relationship with it, and I think that would be one part of my knowledge on Chainsaw Man. And the second thing I know is that on my timeline, there is a lot of Makima fan art. There's a lot of Makima cosplay as well. And I don't know what this says about me and my algorithm habits, but guys, why does the internet like Makima so much?
Because the internet's down bad, Jaren.
Yeah, Jaren, the internet's down bad. Like, Makima is, I think, a very, very good, like, dom mommy character.
Okay. And Rakush, as a power boy, does that make you upset?
I don't like you calling me a power boy. That just sounds... especially after the use of the words dom mommy.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I'm just here asking questions, man. I'm just here asking questions. Are you upset, Rakush?
Am I upset by all the Makima fan art?
Yes.
No, because the quality of the power fan art is far better than the quantity of the Makima fan art.
So my final question, Rakush, I don't know what this says about me. Why don't I get served power fan art?
Your algorithm sucks.
Okay, no. Fair enough. Matt, this has been a beefy episode of Chainsaw Man, but anything else you want to add about episodes 1 to 4, or just what you hope the rest of the season holds?
I think that one of my favorite bits that they've been doing throughout a Chainsaw Man is the endings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like that every episode has its own individual ending.
Right.
And you know what? While we're on it real quick, like, Rakush, I'm assuming the episode 4 ending is your favorite ending.
I mean, if we're talking about the whole package, yes.
Okay.
Very obviously my favorite.
All right.
Jaren, episode 4 is a
power... I'm not saying that Power is my waifu, because I would never say stuff like that, right? All I'm just saying is that she is by far the best female character in all media, and possibly even better than some of the real life people that I've met as well. So, just not waifu. I mean, not my waifu.
Rakush, I'm also just saying. I'm also just saying. When you have an anime ending where the ending contains a anime girl dancing, Rakush, you just gotta scour those timelines, and eventually you're gonna run into Power cosplayers dancing the E4 ending scene.
I don't even need to scour the timeline. I'm on Reddit, so.
You're just looking yourself. I see.
I'm the guy posting it. No, I'm joking. Please do not think I'm posting any of that stuff.
All right. Well, for your redemption, Rakush, as the professor of Chainsaw Man here in the Mistake Zone, any closing thoughts on episodes 1 to 4 and what you hope to see out of the rest of the season?
Yeah, Makima's not even the second best female character in this entire series, so I just wanted to put that out there.
I don't know, you linked us a character popularity poll, and I think she's number 2 there.
Well, what do fans know as well? Although, actually, what do fans know? Because there's one character on there that should be number 1 that's not number 1, so,
Okay, but...
above Power as well, without spoilers.
But yeah, your hopes for the rest of the season, Rakush?
I'm going to watch it. I'm optimistic. I think I speak from it from a very different perspective than most people will be speaking on it as well. I don't think it's a better perspective. I just think it's different. As Matt said earlier, if you don't read the manga, or, you don't really have all the context that, like, I was mentioning, I think you'll enjoy it quite a lot. And I think from that perspective, you're in for a really fun couple of weeks of, just really cool anime as well. I think it's been a great season of anime in general, but we won't get into all the other shows yet.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. I am going to get into another show. Jared, you should watch Bocchi the Rock. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Bocchi the Rock?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Jaren, you should also watch Urusei Yatsura.
Oh man, I couldn't get into that. I watched like 2 episodes and I'm like, oh, this humor is not the kind of humor I like.
That humor is extremely 1980s, and I fucking love it.
Okay. Oh, Rakush using his one swear word of the week on this. Okay, maybe this is worth.
Oh my god, no! I've used that like 3 times, so I apologize.
Sorry, I'm not listening to anything you guys have said this past hour. So.
Classic.
Speaking about classic, guys, I unfortunately didn't partake in Chainsaw Man this week, but I feel like. To close it off, I feel like every time at least I've talked about anime on the Mistake Zone, I've given a chef kiss of the week. So to end off this episode of the Mistake Zone, Matt, Rakush, if you had one chef kiss moment from episodes 1 to 4 of Chainsaw Man, what would it be?
I think for me, my chef kiss moment is... Oh, no, wait. No, I can't narrow this down. Okay, I have 2. It's the episode 4, like, scene that we were talking about, where they just animated the hell out of that scene in the apartment with Aki and Denji. And I think the other one for me would be the sound effect in episode 3 when Power hits Denji with a hammer.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. So I got 2 as well for Chef Kiss moments. I think in episode 3 where Power hits Denji, that entire just, like, scene... Mm-hmm. That entire just like 30 seconds that they have where like it just kind of like they're walking and like there's a sudden realization. Chef kiss moment. I think they translated that from the manga perfectly, man. It was so good. I think the other one I would say is the Bat Devil fight where the Bat Devil hits his like sonic attack on Chainsaw Man and he goes through all the buildings. I think that was the first moment where I was kind of like the anime will be just fine moving forward, because I think that was where I felt very relieved as well. So I would say those 2. Although like quality wise episode 4 had better ones, but chef kiss moments, I think it's those 2.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys, you've sold me on Chainsaw Man. If there's one thing I've learned this episode, it's that, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the Promised Neverland people make episode 4 of Chainsaw Man?
Yeah, they probably did. They probably did.
Man, that joke is still funny to me, and we'll never talk about the manga moving forward.
You talking about the eating babies bit?
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll smile and nod that and pretend that I do. But guys, this has been another beefy episode of the Mistake Zone. And of course, I want to thank my friends for carrying this episode like they do when we all play games. I want to thank the Professor, Rakush.
Don't forget the time you got me a pentakill in League of Legends, bro. Like the 2 times you played that game.
Man, I also want to thank one of my best friends, Matt Alba, once again.
Yo, I think if you aren't going to partake in Chainsaw Man, you should at least partake in Goodbye Aaron.
Yes, I agree. And that's a 10-minute read.
I definitely want to check that out based on your recommendations for sure. Who else do we want to thank this week? Obviously, we have to thank Power, since Rakush loves her so much. Matt, who else do you want to thank this week?
I want to thank the cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Power's cat.
Nyako.
I want to thank all the fan artists and cosplayers on my timeline. I want to thank the chapters cashier for not batting an eye when I brought up all my items today. And
They probably
They probably
Yeah.
look at you come through the door and they're like, oh shit, here's this guy again.
Oh, please tell me you were wearing your VTuber jacket when you went to buy these.
Matt, you definitely know I was wearing that Santa VTuber jacket
Nice.
when I bought all these.
Nice.
My outfit for today, you guys, was my Giant Bomb New Era snapback, my Santa VTuber varsity jacket, and my Giant Bomb sweatpants. So that's the vibe.
And he had a Mountain Dew in one of his hands.
Oh, of course. I was also wearing my Flaming Hot Cheetos underwear as well.
Oh, nice.
Just FYI.
For some reason, the car that he drove in has a gaming chair as his driver's seat.
Hey, don't try to dox me, bro. Don't try to dox me. Anyway, this has been the Mistake Zone for this week. Thanks again to Rakush. Thanks again to Matt. And of course, Matt, take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of Bokuben Volume 19.